In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings. Of course, everyone may have reached God's argument in questioning. Everyone asks, whether Shia, Sunni, atheist or ISIS, why are we like this? What are the secrets of our current situation? The question has been raised, but the answer remains. Before the answer, there is a question. Is it possible in the Holy Quran to find the most truthful source, revealing the secrets of our current situation, a revelation of the existing secrets, an unveiling of the reality of Muslims, a prediction of the foundations upon which this spiritual, mental, material, urban, social, and economic corruption is built, and so on. Everyone agrees that Muslims, regardless of the period, since the fall of the Caliphate, from the days of the Umayyads, or the days of the Saqifa, are united in acknowledging that our situation today is bad, even if they differ in determining the timeline, on the scientific level, on the mental level, on the financial level. By financial, I mean extravagance among some people and poverty among others. On the level of knowledge, on the level of social, sectarian, and partisan relationships, everyone is united in questioning. Can we find indications of this corruption in the Quran or not? Let us reflect on some verses that I have referred to in these discussions as the revealing verses. Take it slowly. Do not take the first verse, the first segment, or the second, third, 10th, or 20th. Your conviction may not be complete until after 100 verses, 200 verses, or even 1,000 verses perhaps. You and your conviction. But build the information. Say, this is good information, and what is its impact? Do not rush to say, what is its effect on our reality? Take it slowly now as information, like mathematical operations. When you are given a mathematical problem, do not rush to the result. Solve the first and second, and identify the values of x and y and so on. Then proceed to the next theory until you find the result. Leave haste aside, for it is blameworthy. Allah condemned haste just as he condemned oppression and ignorance, stating that man was indeed oppressive and ignorant. He also mentioned that man was hasty, or created from haste. Let us recall the verse. And man invokes for evil as he invokes for good, and man is ever hasty. Allah the Exalted condemned haste, just as he condemned oppression and ignorance. We will start with the first verse shortly. I will make the matter easier for you as you open the Holy Quran. Of course, I will not mention the ambiguous verses, but the clear ones. Allah, the Exalted, speaks in about 20 verses about a group, starting from the first chapter of Al-Baqarah, mentioning the righteous in 2 or 4 verses, as there are the successful ones. I mean, the righteous in 1 verse and the disbelievers in 2 verses. Then he began to talk about another group at the beginning of the Medinan period. The chapter of Al-Baqarah was revealed unanimously when the Prophet arrived in Medina, especially its beginning. Pay attention at that time. Abdullah bin Ubay and the hypocrites had not yet converted. They embraced Islam only after the Battle of Badr, meaning after the chapter of Al-Anfal. Now let us look at what Allah says about a strange group present in Medina at the beginning of the migration. What does Allah say? He says, and among the people are some who say, and they deceive Allah, and those who believe in a specific sense, meaning they are among those who believe in a general sense, at least in the eyes of people, because they deceive Allah, and those who believe. So does Allah get deceived? But do the believers get deceived? Certainly a large portion of them does get deceived.
So, a portion of these will be classified among the companions,
And in the biographies of the companions, pay attention. And among the people are those who say, "We believe in Allah and the last day," but they are not believers. The ba here is not said as, "and they are not believers," but "and they are not believers" for emphasis, because there is a significant doubt about their faith. The ba is for confirmation of their characteristics. They deceive Allah and the believers. Are there people today who deceive Allah and the believers? For example, in the analysis of killing a Muslim, surely you see them praying, fasting, and crying while they pray against believers, or command cutting off what Allah has commanded to be connected. They deceive Allah and the believers, and they deceive none but themselves. This is the result. Why? Because in the end, the world is fleeting. You are deceiving yourselves. You have an account, punishment, paradise and hell, and accountability. How do you deceive Allah and the believers? Do you realize this? Some may realize, some may not. This is another topic. The important thing is that Allah has informed about their reality, that their true action is that they deceive Allah and the believers. Other verses will come that they have taken the devils as allies besides Allah, thinking they are guided. Not every deceiver thinks he is deceiving. He may or may not know. But the important thing is, the truth is that they deceive Allah and the believers, and they deceive none but themselves, and they do not realize it. I respond, if they do not realize it, then it is all the more likely that they have more credibility, meaning they are a satanic creation, because the devil loves those who speak with credibility. This means that they influence people differently than those who speak while knowing they are cunning and lying. This is revealed through their gazes, their hand movements, and the tone of their speech. That is why people feel at ease with hidden cameras, for example, because there is seriousness from the other party, and it is spoiled if they know that the hidden camera is a setup, for instance. So, the devil wants credibility. He wants his allies to have credibility. Therefore, they do not realize that their actions are deceitful towards Allah and the believers, but they do not feel it. By Allah, do you not see many examples of these today? Surely. So why do they not feel it? Why do you punish them, O Lord? They do not feel because they could feel if they wanted to, but they have followed their leaders, their elders, their scholars, and their monks, and the world has convinced them, and they have deceived themselves. It says, and they deceive none but themselves, and they deceive none but themselves. So why did they fall into this state? Let's continue. What is the reason? What is the reason that they deceive Allah and the believers and do not realize this deception? Why? Why, O Lord? Listen to the rest. Allah mentions the reason. In their hearts is a disease. It is strange. The disease of the hearts can lead you to deceive yourself without realizing it. What is the disease of the hearts? It will come. But let's continue. So Allah increased them in disease. In their hearts is a disease. Since when? Since the early days of the Medinan period, meaning in their hearts is a disease even before the revelation of the verse, before the revelation of the surah. The surah was revealed in the early Medinan period, meaning these people had a disease in their hearts from the emigrants, not from the helpers. No verses were revealed about the helpers before the migration. They were revealed in the Meccan period, right? Take it as I told you. Take it bit by bit, slowly. Do not rush. Remember, take this information and just place it on the shelf until its sisters come, and you look, then connect all these verses and see if there is a secret in what we are in or not, or if these people whom Allah has detailed have an effect or not. Will Allah detail in 20 verses about the hypocrites, while detailing the righteous in 4 verses and the disbelievers in 2 verses? These hypocrites, who have a disease in their hearts, are detailed in 20 verses. Will He detail ordinary people who have no impact on Muslims or their reality? Is it not more appropriate that this warning is for those who will have an effect and for whom the Quran will be a proof against them? Surah Al-Baqarah is the first surah after Al-Fatiha, and a Muslim should pause at it. Who are these people in the time of the Prophet, and when was Al-Fatiha revealed, and so on. Let's continue then. In their hearts is a disease from the Meccan period, in parentheses, from my words, meaning from the Meccan period because the Quran was earlier, and we will know from Surah Al-Mudathir that God said, "And let those in whose hearts is disease." And the disbelievers say, what has God intended by this example? So, from the days of the Meccan period, from the very beginning of the Meccan period, from Surah Al-Mudathir, there are people with a disease in their hearts among the companions and immigrants since that day. This is the Quranic logic until now, right? This is the sound logic, very clear as we said. Ibn Abi did not convert that day. And the detail here is that in their hearts is a disease, so God increased their disease, indicating that their disease is old. This disease was increased by God as a punishment for this disease, whether it is major or due to worldly ambitions. Later, we will know what the disease is, but God increased their disease because they did not purify their hearts. And if you delay in purifying your heart, and the refinement of yourself has brought you this increase because God provides opportunities, gives you signs and insights, and offers you exits from the path of misguidance if you want. Here is an exit. Here is an exit. If you continue, the signals and exits will be cut off. So, of course, the picture, as we said, Al-Baqarah, when it was first revealed in Medina, God talks about a group and a length in it a lot, and this indicates that it is a Meccan group, meaning from the immigrants, because God mentioned many descriptions that they could not gather in Medina. The time had not come in Medina for them to gather all the descriptions that will come. And listen, in their hearts is a disease. This is from the revealing verses. These are from the revealing segments that will uncover many things and many secrets for you. So, in their hearts is a disease, and God increased their disease, and they will have a painful punishment for what they used to lie about. So, is this disease a result of their lying to themselves and to people? Or is lying a result of the disease? Does the disease precede lying? Or does lying precede the disease? So, in their hearts is a disease, and God increased their disease, and they will have a painful punishment for what they used to lie about. The disease is what produces lying. If the hearts are sick, they produce. And lying may precede, but here the verse indicates that the disease preceded. What is this disease? It will come, but let's read the segments we want without distracting ourselves. This segment is from Surah Al-Baqarah, from verse 8. Yes. Okay? And God knows that the Quran will be arranged like this, so he presented these descriptions. God knows that the Muslims will arrange the Quran in this order, and the Muslim will be surprised from the very first reading of Al-Baqarah by this long group that will continue with us. In detail, 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 detail. Who are these? The first thing that comes to mind is that they are from the Ansar, the helpers. So, they are Meccans from the freed ones. No, this verse was revealed before the freed ones converted and before the hypocrites converted. So, what remains for the immigrants is that they are among them. This is natural. This is the natural logic until now, and knowledge is difficult, and you cannot change it except with difficulty, except by knowing this difficult knowledge if it is true. If it is indeed true, then it is certainly true. The Quran is true. But is the understanding wrong? I mean, truth from falsehood will be clear in their hearts, is a disease, and God increased their disease, and they will have a painful punishment for what they used to lie about. So, these people have deception and think they believe in God and the last day, and they say it. And God confirmed with but that they are not believers. They are not believers, but are deceiving, and they do not realize that they are deceiving. And in their hearts is an old disease, and God increased their recent disease, and that is why they lie. And when it is said to them, here is another description, do not cause corruption on the earth, they say, we are but reformers. What does corruption on earth mean? Is it material or military corruption? No, it is cultural corruption. Because in the first year in Medina, there was no battle between the hypocrites, those who have a disease in their hearts, and there was no oppression of people, no roadblocks, no fighting, or anything. Therefore, the corruption here is what? It is cultural corruption, cognitive corruption, and faith-based corruption. And when it is said to them, do not corrupt the earth, it is as if they have communication with people in doubts. and we discovered such and such. We found Jews who have books, and the Jews will be mentioned that when they return to their devils, they say, indeed you have started to corrupt among your companions. Of course, if we say that these are a group of migrants, who will corrupt? Will they go to the Ansar whom they do not know? Or will they talk to those they know and have friendships with? Of course here, without generalization, as we said, it is a group of migrants. And the Quran has revealed that this deceitful group that has a disease in their hearts, that lies, that corrupts the earth, and that they are from the migrants, not from the freed ones or the hypocrites among the Ansar, to present the image of the cow before the Islam of the freed ones and before the Islam of the hypocrites that we have in mind. Well, when it is said to them, do not corrupt the earth, they say, we are but reformers. Do they truly feel that they are reformers or not? They do not feel that they are corrupt, or because God says, indeed they are the corrupt ones, but they do not feel it. They see this as culture and religion from God, and they are comfortable with it. What does God Almighty say? Of course, the corruption, as we said in this verse, is cultural and faith-based corruption. It is the corruption that produced this hypocritical culture. These are the principles of producing the hypocritical culture, and the sources of this hypocritical culture will become clear. What are its sources? The disease of the hearts. Well, and other things like what? We will elaborate on it later. The disease of the hearts, for example, is the communication with the Jews in the city, the people of the book, who impress them with their words and so on. Well, and the tribalism, for example, and the second and the third, the factors come. The point is that they do not know that they are corrupting. They do not feel it, but God confirms that they are the corrupt ones, yet they do not feel it. Of course they do not feel it. Well, the next verse is, and when it is said to them, of course, before it was said, and among the people are those who say, believe as the people have believed. This means another group of people. What is the belief of the people? It is the obedience to the Prophet, contemplation, not corrupting the earth, and tranquility. And when it is said to them, believe as the people have believed, who are these people? They are the oppressed. They said, and when it is said to them, believe as the people have believed, they said, shall we believe as the foolish have believed? Indeed, they are the foolish ones, but they do not know. To them, the foolish one is the one in a weak state, the poor, the needy, the oppressed, and so on. This is the nature of the oppressed and the poor, that they gather around the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the warmth of their faith has mixed with their hearts. So, these deceitful individuals, who have corruption, have an intellectual movement in Medina saying, these foolish ones are just poor souls. And many verses will come regarding the command to expel them and so on from the disbelievers. This is a Qurayshite, disbelieving nature, that remains in a group of migrants. And when it is said to them, yes, believe as the people have believed, they say, shall we believe as the foolish have believed? Indeed, they are the foolish ones, but they do not know. As long as God has said about them that they are the foolish ones, verses will come saying, the foolish among the people, and similar phrases. Is it, by approximation, that it indicates that they are the ones? This Quran was revealed to the companions, revealed to the Prophet for the believers. So when they read this, understanding of the weak, the poor, and the few, they might grasp the meaning. So when the word foolish comes, it might be linked to this meaning, especially with the reading of the Quran and its repetition. It shows you each time the meaning of the connections. This verse reminds you of that, this verse interprets that, and so on, so you increase in understanding. Therefore, Allah commanded reading the Quran and reflecting on it, and continuing in that, because it will reveal to you until all that remains is to draw these figures. All right, let's continue then. And when it is said to them, believe as the people have believed, they say, shall we believe as the foolish have believed? Indeed, they are the foolish, but they do not know. Later, we will know the meaning of the foolish in the Quran and what it means. And these are among their characteristics. They deceive and hasten, and in their hearts is a disease. They corrupt, and the worst corruption is informational corruption. Today their examples are immense, Look at the advocates of extremism and radicalism in every country. It's the same thing. Let them enter a village, for example, and they start to corrupt. Who are your scholars? You see them with their robes and such, and it's something amazing. But I don't want to apply it yet until you see the rest of the characteristics. The next verse says, and when they meet those who have believed, they say, we have believed. If it is said to them, do not cause corruption on the earth, they respond, shall we believe as the foolish have believed? Here, it is said that believers spoke to them as if they were addressing people who wanted to corrupt them, but some of them did not agree. They said, believe as the people have believed, and they replied, no, these are foolish. Then Allah says, and when they meet those who have believed, they say, we have believed. Here, it has a specific meaning, as if it is a class within a class. Those with a disease in their hearts, the invited ones, and the pure believers. Because the term, those who have believed here, indicates that when they meet the believers, they say, we have believed, because they are afraid of them, knowing that they might expose them. And when they are alone with their devils, they say, indeed, we are with you, we are merely mocking. How did they know who their devils were? They could be from the people of the book, possibly from the Jews. Because in another verse, when Allah mentioned the Jews, He said, and when some of them met each other, they said, we want to focus on the segments one by one. So, when they meet those who have believed, they say, we have believed. Here, it seems that those who have believed refer to the pure believers who fear them and have a certain awe, perhaps due to their closeness to the Prophet, peace be upon him. They say, we have believed, because the Prophet affirms these individuals. They might find figures like Imam Ali, Hamza, or Ammar, or perhaps Bilal. When they meet them, they say, we have believed. And when they are alone with their devils, if their devils are from the Jews, or the people of the book, or their leaders, those with a disease in their hearts, they say, indeed, we are with you. We are merely mocking. When you see us, we say we have believed, and so on. You see, we are mocking. So, it seems there are two classes among those with a disease in their hearts. The leaders, who are their devils, or the devils referred to are the Jews, as mentioned in conjunction with the other verse. It seems that the companions of their devils are among the leaders with a disease in their hearts, because they said, indeed we are with you, we are merely mocking, meaning that the devils, their leaders, have seen them saying, we have believed. They excuse themselves to them, saying, you see, we are with you, we are mocking. When you saw us in the mosque and met, for example, Ali and Ammar, we said we are with him, we are believers, and we bear witness to the messenger of Allah that he is his messenger. You see, do not believe us, we are with you. This is evidence that their devils are among their leaders, and if it is meant that those with a disease in their hearts are one group, then their devils are the Jews, as in the verse. And when some of them whisper to each other, it does not say, and when they whisper to their devils like the Jews. This means, then, when they whisper to their devils, they say, indeed, we are with you, we are merely mocking. God mocks them and extends them in their tyranny, wandering blindly. He allows them to continue in their misguidance. They do not find guidance as a punishment for them, because the reward is of the same kind as the action. Guidance requires action, and misguidance, if acted upon, will come. So purify yourself continuously, cleanse your heart, be humble, and ask God for guidance. Be observant, look at the people of faith. Do not be arrogant towards them. Do not say, these are foolish, poor, and needy, while we have this and that, and we have trade, and so on. Be careful. Then God the Exalted says afterwards, indeed God mocks them and extends them in their tyranny, wandering blindly. Look at tyranny here and remember our discussion on the tyrant. The tyrant may be the heads of evil and corruption. It is mentioned here in the verse that they cause corruption on earth. Then there are people who refer to the tyrant. Some worship the tyrant, and some worship God. The features are starting to become clearer. And when they meet, It is said, "Indeed, God mocks them," meaning they think they are mocking, while God mocks them. Who are you poor ones deceiving me? Is it possible that God mocks them and extends them in their tyranny? He did not say in their folly or in their corruption, because the previous attributes are encompassed by tyranny, corruption, deception, disease, and so on. These are the materials of tyranny, and God has extended them in all their previous corruption. He extends them in their tyranny, wandering blindly. Tyranny encompasses the previous attributes. Wandering is an act of insight. Then God speaks of them. Those are the ones who bought misguidance with guidance. Their trade did not profit them, and they were not guided. God is the greatest. Here, it seems there is a hint at another story, that they are traders who buy and sell. Those who bought misguidance with guidance, their trade did not profit them, and they were not guided. Why this Quranic expression? Why did God not say, those who took misguidance and left guidance? Why the terms of buying and trading? They say before that these are foolish. Why do they call them foolish? Because they are poor, for example, while they are traders. So, we observe the traders of the emigrants. This is another clue that brings us closer to understanding, perhaps the traders of the emigrants, as we have established that the verses do not speak of the Ansar or the freed captives. These are settled matters. They do not speak of the hypocrites among the Ansar or the freed captives and the Bedouins. These are settled matters. God has informed us later. No, this elite you have now is the elite problem at the beginning of the Medinan era. Start from here, and the verses will guide you to what came before and after. The Quran explains some of itself, but be strong-hearted in knowing the diagnosis of the disease as it is. Do not worship a doctrine, nor do I mean a doctrine, nor policies, nor nations, nor friends, if you want treatment. Treatment comes after accurate diagnosis, and the Quran is the most truthful source. Now take this information packaged. You still do not know. Even if they were the traders of the emigrants, you do not know who they are. Well, excel. In this now, continue. So, those who bought misguidance with guidance, their trade did not profit them, and they were not guided, meaning even before they were not guided. Do not think that they were guided and then deviated. They were not guided. Guidance does not say, and they were not believers. It said in the previous verse, and they are not believers. Now in verse 16 it says, and they were not guided. So guidance is specific, and faith is general, because another verse states, indeed, those who believed, then disbelieved, then believed, then disbelieved. And it did not say, indeed, those who were guided, then disbelieved. No, guidance cannot be followed by disbelief, while general faith may be followed by disbelief. And God knows best. This needs further research. But this is what comes to my mind. What comes to my mind so far, and we will correct it when we see a segment, is that it was mentioned that it was corrected if we made a mistake in something that follows. Then Allah, the Exalted, says about these people, He gives them a parable. Pay attention to Allah's parable. These merchants from the immigrants in the early Medinan era, in the first year before Badr, are like them, meaning in this misguidance. Their entire story is a parable struck by Allah for them, like the one who kindled a fire. When it illuminated what was around him, Allah took away their light and left them in darkness, unable to see. Deaf, dumb, and blind, they do not return. Why did Allah say, like them, like the one who kindled a fire? When it illuminated what was around him, Allah took away their light in the plural and left them in the plural, unable to see. Deaf in the plural, dumb in the plural, blind in the plural, do not return in the plural. Why did he start with the singular and end with the plural? Think about it. Do you have an answer? He did not say, like those who kindled a fire when it illuminated what was around them. No, he said, like them, like the one who kindled a fire. When it illuminated what was around him, Allah took away their light. And he left them in darkness, unable to see. Of course, Allah would not take away their light unjustly. Far be it from Allah. Rather, It is because they neglected this light and kindled a fire. Notice the word kindled. It does not mean they have ignited it. It is as if one of them wanted to kindle a fire for a worldly desire for this reason. Why do you kindle a fire? To cook, to drive away the cold. It indicates your location. So when it illuminated what was around him, Allah took away their light, he and those who followed him, he and those whom he led to Islam. Perhaps, why did he bring them? He wants to have a fire, as if there is a fire in his head. They are like them, like the one who kindled a fire. When it illuminated what was around him, Allah took away their light and left them in darkness, unable to see. Deaf, dumb, and blind. They do not return. All right, let's continue. Then Allah, the Exalted, says, or like a rain from the sky, meaning a piece of rain, or like a rain from the sky that contains darkness, thunder, and lightning. They put their fingers in their ears from the thunderclaps, fearing death, and Allah encompasses the disbelievers. Allah is the greatest. So this is a second parable that Allah strikes for them, in which there is rain from the sky. What does this rain hint at? Revelation. Revelation is a blessing from the sky, but this revelation contains darkness, as in the ambiguous matters, and thunder, which represents distant arguments, and lightning, which represents close arguments. Exactly, because lightning combines thunder and light. What do? When the clear argument comes to them, that the matter is not for you or for them? This fire is as if there is a fire in his head. Huh? It's not. When such clear evidence comes to them, what do? They put their fingers in their ears from the thunderclaps. They do not like clear arguments, fearing death, because if they submit, everything will perish. Their remembrance will die, and indeed, Allah encompasses the disbelievers. This is relative disbelief. As we mentioned earlier, that they say, we believe in Allah and the last day. Correct. They are verbally believers, but the disbelief is real, like that of the hypocrites. Exactly. Like some hypocrites who believe outwardly, and Allah bears witness to what is in their hearts. So indeed, Allah encompasses the disbelievers. So do not think that. Your expression about these clear arguments in the Meccan period shows that the matter will be, or that the fire, which is knowledge, this guidance and food and light, has much in it. They will be for others. They fear death and close themselves off from the clear arguments. After them they close themselves off from these verses. Influenced by the current they have created, they put their fingers in their ears from the thunder, fearing the strike, and the strike is the clearest thing because it combines sound and light. God encompasses the disbelievers. The lightning almost snatches their sight. Whenever it lights up for them, they walk in it, meaning there are clear verses in their favor, such as the verses of equality, verses of justice, and verses of worshiping God alone. They walk in them, and when darkness falls upon them, meaning when a verse comes that obedience to the Prophet is obedience to God, for example, that they have no command with the command of the Prophet. If they choose a command here, they stop. The lightning almost snatches their sight whenever it lights up for them. And when darkness falls upon them, they stand fearing for their interests. If God had willed, he could have taken away their hearing and sight. Indeed, God is capable of all things. This is approximately verse 20. There are remaining verses that may benefit this. O mankind, worship your Lord who created you and those before you, that you may become righteous. This verse does not mean worship and does not mean piety. We have explained it previously. He tells them that, you see, worshipping God is not like this, in deception and corruption, and not following the clear signs. It is not suitable for you. Rather, worship God and submit completely until you become righteous, so that you do not fall into aggression and do not wrong others. He who made the earth a bed for you and the sky a canopy, and sent down from the sky water, bringing forth fruits as sustenance for you, so do not make partners with God while you know. We have explained that partners refer mostly to people, and among the people are those who take others besides God as partners, loving them as they love God, and those who believe are stronger in love for God. If only those who have wronged could see the punishment, they would know that all power belongs to God, and that God witnesses the punishment. Thus, it is as if this is a message to the people: leave these devils or these tyrannical leaders, the heads of evil and corruption. All the verses call for this. Then God says, "And if you are in doubt about what we have sent down to our servant, then bring a chapter like it and call your witnesses besides God if you are truthful. But if you do not do it, and you will never do it, then fear the fire whose fuel is people and stones prepared for the disbelievers." This is the first part, meaning that some of them have doubts. So come with something like this Quran, and if you have doubts, after you're mingling with the Jews of the city, then bring something like this Quran. Try it, and call your witnesses. Say, "What do you think of these texts that we have adjusted in the Quran?" There is a secret in this first part of the revealing verses or the revealing sections regarding what we are in, but take it now as a potential piece of information, set it aside, and look at the other verses. In other contexts, we will mention the rest of the readings that may describe to us these verses. I mean, if I were to expand perhaps on contemplation and mention examples and similar instances, the Quran is completely revealing. Thank you, and peace be upon you. Hello, Dr. Hamid, may God bless you. Mashallah, you have a language that combines the villages. All right, of course. Let's return to the serious matter. My dear brothers, Muslims repeat that the Quran has everything, but they repeat it theoretically. They do not believe that it has solutions to their problems, or a diagnosis of their ailments at least. It is true that the Quran does not detail scientific theories in physics, and so on, but at least the affliction of this human being is a consequence that needs to be treated. Indeed, this human has ailments, diseases, injustices, arrogance, stubbornness, and so on, a collection of sins. Did the Quran come to correct them or not? Yes. Or to diagnose this person and his diseases? Yes. Okay. How do you recognize this diagnosis? You recognize it by prohibiting what? By prohibiting some sins like arrogance, injustice, lying, and so on. Also, it diagnoses for you those who carry these sins so you can recognize them. Most people think that the Quran describes people who have no impact on us, right? It describes hypocrites who have perished, meaning we continue to read their stories or their sins just as a form of mockery, as if we are reading the verses of Amr ibn Kulthum al-Taghlibi in pride, or the verses of Al-Farazdaq in mocking Jarir, or Jarir in mocking Al-Farazdaq. No, this is not it. What is more beneficial, for example, for your son if you see him emulating bad companions? Is it better to criticize those and explain their traits to him, or to criticize bad people in Buenos Aires, Argentina? What is more beneficial for him if you see your son or know that he will be with bad companions? Is it more beneficial for him to say, "Look, these have such and such traits," to diagnose their conditions and signs so he can avoid them? Or is it more beneficial for him to criticize Chinese children in southern China who are fishing and were bad and who fought and cheated each other? What do children in southern China or in Buenos Aires or in Seville or in the Quran benefit from that? But because we are stubborn and cling to them, or are afraid for them, we still do not know who we are emulating. But the devil works for you. Before we come to the devil, the benefit here is that when the Quran describes to you, after warning you about certain sins or types of sins, it describes the groups that will affect you or affect Muslims throughout the ages. This will come when he says, "So let them indulge and play until they meet their day which they are promised." He describes people, and perhaps these are the ones described who have sickness in their hearts, indulging and playing until they meet their day. They may die before their play, and indulgence continue. Just as Allah said about the children of Israel, "Why do you kill the prophets of Allah?" They did not kill directly, but they were the result of the killers. So let them indulge and play, just as the killing continued to the days of the Prophet. The physical killing may have ended, but the moral killing by destroying their teachings continued. So when you kill the prophets of Allah before, and if you were believers, it means you are committing the actions of your predecessors. Your tradition is their tradition. Thus, the killing is attributed to them because they share the same results, the same genes, the same ideas, the same arrogance, and the same stubbornness. So, let them indulge and play until they meet their day which they are promised. This means that the indulgence and play will continue from those who have sickness in their hearts, and after them the same characters, the same genes, the same stubbornness, the same arrogance, the same suspicion, for example, of the righteous whom they call foolish, the same arrogance against the faith of the righteous. The story has not come to the remaining segments yet, but we are confident that the Quran is a revealer of our reality if we want it to. Reveal our diseases. One who has a great illness with very serious diseases must be patient with the painful treatment. However, if it is just a cold or simple things, there is no need to take lemon. As the teacher Hazin Zaid described, take lemon with you and throw it away from the energy. As for patients with severe illnesses, they require hospitalization, injections, surgeries, and pain to overcome their serious conditions. However, for common diseases, the issue is that we seek treatment for the widespread severe patients, but we request light treatments like lemon and simple things. We refuse surgeries and precise diagnoses. We do not acknowledge the illness. By God, He does not change what is in a people until they change what is in themselves. One must be patient and endure the pain to be treated. It is a long story.